Hi guys, in the Poke-like channel today, we'll discover 10 absurd facts about Pokemon. 10. Some Pokemon are not what they say they are. Wobbuffet is an already strange Pokemon on its own. His appearance leaves many doubts about his real nature, and his struggling abilities make him unique and truly curious. It's also known that he suffers from sunlight. So Wobbuffet chooses to leave closed places only at night so as to not injure his black tail. It seems to be talking about two separate entities. Wobbuffet's tail, everyone knows, is equipped with a pair of lively and somewhat disturbing eyes. So there's a whole current of thought that claims that the real Pokemon is the tail, and that the blue part is nothing more than a mirror for the larks, an unimportant appendix grown for the sole purpose of distracting the opponent. 9. Was Voltorb or Pokeball born first? Pokeballs are ultra-high-tech human artifacts capable of containing living creatures. They have nothing to do with the Voltorbs. The latter would have been born as a result of the malicious action of the Haunter, who would have entered a Pokeball to possess it as a ghost in the shell. The result is an inanimate object that came to life, giving rise to a new Pokemon. 8. Death sometimes exists. The most famous among the tower cemetery of Pokemon is the Pokemon Tower of Lavendonia in the Kanto region. Here, during the red, blue, green, and yellow Pokemon events, we meet our rival that we haven't seen in a long time. The reason why he's in that place are not clear, but some claim that he's at the tower to pay tribute to his Raticate, who died after the last clash with Rosso on the Moto Nave Ana. 7. Some evolutionary lines have been crossed. It seems that some evolved Pokemon share some important physical characteristics with basic Pokemon of other evolutionary lines. Example: the element of Magikarp's Baffy reproduced as their antennas on the head of Dragonite. In this way, the programmers would be suggesting to us that they could have a very close link and that the evolutionary lines were crossed. But is it legitimate that a Pokemon like Gyarados is not of the dragon type, despite learning many of his moves of this type and looking like it? 6. Genesect is a genetically modified Kabutops. Team Plasma, as you know, conducted genetic experiments to create the perfect Pokemon for battle. The result is Genesect, a prehistoric insect Pokemon equipped with a very powerful cannon. Kabutops looks a lot like Genesect physically, shares some characteristic traits with him, and appears to be a prehistoric insect or sea creature. What do you think of this relative? Could it be like that? 5. Slowpoke is the victim of a parasitic life form that controls him. The information from the Pokédex is very clear about this, and they claim that Slowpoke at the start is a generally stupid and slow Pokemon. He lives from fishing and uses his tail as bait to attract small fish, which he then swallows. The rest of his days he spends sleeping. A Shelder sticking to the tail of a Slowpoke would instead trigger its evolution, transforming it completely. Forces him to hunt to get food, no longer being able to use the tail as a fishing rod, and finally the Pokédex states that the Slowbros feel no pain due to the presence of Shelder and its venom. 4. Munna already existed in the first generation and was discarded. News of this Pokemon you have starting from the picnic girl you meet in the first and third generation games on Path 10. This girl in fact says, "The Pokemon here are so big, there must be a pink flowering one." So it seems that he's referring to Munna, the pink smoky Pokemon that appears starting from the 5th season. 3. Ditto is an artificial Pokemon fruit of experimentation on the genome of Mew. Mew is the genetic father of all existing Pokemon species, and his DNA was found in fossil form by some scientists during an expedition. The research work was funded by Team Rocket, specifically leader Giovanni, for the purpose of creating a perfect Pokemon to be used as a weapon of mass destruction. The final result of those searches led to the creation of Mewtwo, the protagonist of the events of the first feature film about Pokemon, who after freeing himself from Giovanni's control, attempts to conquer the world. Another experiment would be Ditto, who starting from Mew's genome would have a unique ability, that is to transform himself into any other Pokemon. 2. Spectrum Pokemon were born from the shadows of other Pokemons. The most famous of the theories of this type concerns the pairing of Gengar and Clefable. According to the most recurring interpretations, Gengar would have been born as the precise shadow of another Pokemon, namely Clefable. Other Pokemon are also thought to have been born from the shadows or torments of non-Spectrum Pokemon. For example, Duskull, the third-generation Spectrum, would actually be the living shadow of Spreetzy, and Duskull then came to us in pair with Shuppet. 1. The 3 legendary dogs are Eevee's evolutions. There are some disturbing similarities between the 3 legendary dogs and the 3 Eevee evolutions of the first generation: Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon. Legend has it that in the Brass Tower during that fire, 3 mysterious Pokemon died, and that the legendary Pokemon Ho-Oh came down from the sky to revive those creatures. They received as a gift the power of the lightning that had struck the tower, Raikou, the power of the flames that had consumed it, Entei, and the power of the rain that had extinguished the fire, Suicune. What if those 3 Pokemon that died in the fire were the 3 evolved forms of Eevee? If this is not enough to convince us, we must remember that those 3 evolutions of Eevee can only be achieved through the use of evolutionary stones. Doesn't it seem strange that in the same city where these disturbing events took place, there's a dance theater that in this building you can challenge 5 kimono girls, each with a specific evolution of Eevee? Thank you for watching our video. Tell us what you think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it so you don't miss our content.